Okay, so I'm sure most of you probably seen this Jeep right here. I've been detailing it and everything, but the part that you probably didn't know about it is you may have seen a short video about it not having oil pressure, but obviously when I got it, it was just bone stock. There was nothing to it. But when I crank it up, it's gonna rattle. And what it was is the motor come out of another Jeep, and I'm pretty sure whoever it was spent a pretty good lump sum of money on it, just everything new parts, knew that. Well, as soon as they put it together, you could tell they timed it wrong and they bent all the valves. So it's been running, but let me crank it up and let you hear, see if you can hear it in the video. I don't know how well it'll sound on camera, but it rattles its off until it gets oil pressure, and then it runs fine. So I got a theory. When I get in the shop, I'll explain. But like I said, I wound up changing to a it's a gauge that just shows dummy numbers. It just stays right there the entire time. It never moves. So it never drops below like 15, 16 like that. Let me get it in the shop. So if you can see, I put dang near 500 miles on there. I'm not that kind of person. If you can see back there, we was riding back roads trying to find a place to play golf. But let me get it in the shop. So if I can find a picture of the Cherokee, I'll put it in the video. What it was, I bought this Cherokee and it needed a transmission. Well, I put a transmission in it and it run and drove fine. Same thing, it rattled on crank up, and about hot, you know, not hot, just operating temperatures, oil pressure would go from like 45, 50 cold to fall down to about 20 when the engine's warm. It's like, what the heck? So it was an older Jeep, whatever, and I was like, well, maybe they make a set of rod bearings that's like one 1,000th under, whatever I'm trying to say, not 10,000, it's like one. So I ordered a set, pulled it apart, and I put them in there, and you could like shake the rod. So like I said, my brother does machine shop. I hollered at him, he come over here. We got feeler gauges and was sticking it through there. Literally, we was measuring 13 thousandths difference. I was like, how is this even possible? So we did some thinking, and I got to looking up, and you could see, wish I took pictures, but this is before YouTube. You could see brand new pistons. I was like, oh, somebody has ordered new pistons and semi rebuilt this motor, and they probably put a reman crankshaft. And I don't think that many people knows when you get a reman crankshaft, it's guaranteed to be 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths, 30 thousandths undersized. So that's what was so wild. That Jeep had 13 thousandths of clearance, but still ran fine. So that's exact same situation there. Like I just told you, somebody's been throwing new parts at it. So I think, which they go by, oh, I don't know if it'll tell in here, 0.25 of a millimeter, which is literally nearly exact as 10 thousandths. I got my fingers crossed. Like I said, it runs fine. It's got the exact same symptoms. So at this point, I can just tear it apart and see what it looks like. Got oil pan gaskets too. That's all my projects, by the way. So all them shelves, those are just random stuff I got to do. Let me get it on the lift and drain the oil. I'll let y'all be there when I drain the oil, and we'll go from there. All right, kind of hard to video from, I'm like standing awkwardly, but I've known about the problem since I started, but I mean, that's black oil, but I don't see any metal. So I've got a magnet right there, and I'll try to get it to where it leaks all on the magnet, and we'll see. And luckily I got a, I think it's good oil. So black, ain't bad, but, oh, I got a oil filter cutter opener. So as soon as I get all the oil out, we'll get the filter and see what it looks like on the inside. All right, I had this puppy sitting here draining for approximately a long time. So time to raise it back up and figure out where the problem is. Fun fact, while I'm standing here, we know Rough Country is not the best lift kits out there. I admit that, even though I'm a dealer for them. But I got these cheap tires because I know I'm not gonna drive this thing very much, but Outlander Rover Claw. This Jeep rides better than any Jeep I own. Even like, needs more fluid. Even like my two-wheel drive daily, my Overland, like all of them, though. So I don't know if it's the WJ suspension or these tires, but I would recommend these tires. I don't know how much air in them. Whatever they put, I'm sure it's maximum. Golly, 65 PSI. I need to check that. I highly doubt they got 65 PSI in there. All right, I'm gonna get on the oil. Like I always say, these are weeks apart, so I forget stuff. But one thing to kind of support my theory is they've changed the oil pan gasket, which means they've been into it. So I'm gonna get the oil filter off, and then I'm gonna drain that oil into that pan, and then let the oil filter sit and drain. But I'm gonna let y'all watch me pour the oil out so nobody can accuse me of anything. Oh, y'all get a good view. Everything should have drained on that magnet. Alright, y'all can see somebody's always draining diff covers and stuff around here, but there was a hint of metal right there. And I mean, there's some, but nothing too crazy. So filter should be pretty good, but we'll get it off there, let it drain as soon as that gets done draining. And like I said, hopefully it's just enough metal from it knocking on startup and whatever that everything's still in good shape. So we will see. Good and bad news. So there is a little more metal in there. I know that looks like a lot, but I don't think it's actually a lot. It's just settled and ain't come back up. But the positive side of it is, where am I going with the camera? See, it's numbered 2. Can y'all see that? I think you can see it. So that's numbered 2. That one's numbered 4. So what does that mean? That means somebody has changed something in there. So it's the only positive information I got at the moment. So I just have to get one apart. Okay, so I think it is the news that I was looking for. I hope. Like I said, look up here. Where we at? Brand new oil pump right there. If you look up in the hole, brand new pistons. And obviously if this is a reman crankshaft, it would look, you know, like just the way it was. So that don't look bad there. And let's see where they're going next. I know y'all cannot read this. I wish you could. Maybe one day I can afford a camera. But standard, and that one says standard on it. But if you look at them, they obviously don't look good. But that probably looks like they was put in when all the other parts were put in this motor. So I think we're onto something. Maybe y'all can read these numbers. Let's see. Rod journal diameter is 2.07 to 2.8. And obviously I can't do this with one hand, but that's about the best number I'm getting, which is way under that. And let me do the math real quick. Okay, this is so hard to do. I'm gonna try to do it. I'm not a machinist, these numbers. Okay, so 0.25 of a millimeter is equal to a number y'all can't read, which is 0.0098. Okay, so if we subtract, calculator, I average these two out. That's the factory. It's 2.0076 between there and 2.0082. So in the middle is 2.0079. So let's go 2.0079 minus, I know this is confusing, this was getting me earlier. There's 0098, so no, that's wrong. Go back to calculate, go back to here, so 2 zeros and a 9, so that's 2 zeros and 9. Alright, so minus 0.0098 equals wrong. God dang it. I'm not very good at this stuff. Hold on. I don't know how I'm ever going to edit this scene and make me not look stupid, but I'm not a machinist. and this is numbers. I don't know. I was thinking moving decimal point. Like I said, I know y'all can't see very well, but I was just getting confused, and still I cannot figure the calculator out. Okay, so 0.25 millimeter is basically a tenth, or no, a thousandth. That's the third one down here. You got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 1.25 millimeters is one value of the third number. Sorry, my pinky don't bend. So where I was getting confused is when I look at my dial calipers, there's 2 zeros. Okay, when I look at my right here, I was dropping a 0 off and thinking, like I said, I'm not a precision machinist. So when I see that 0.25 millimeters is basically a thousandth, you know, that would round up to a 1. So where this number right here, let's just average it out, say it's a 2.08 and cancel out the 9 there. So now we will be subtracting 1, so that number would drop down to a 2.006, and that makes perfect sense. Actually, I've already marked the crank. It's 2.something6. Like, I got to get me a set of Maturos, and that's what was confusing. If you can see me barely move it, that's where I'm desired, and then that's what, golly, I'm not a machinist. Right there is where we're supposed to be, and then like I said, if you add 10,000 or 0.25 millimeter, that's where we're at. Okay, so I'm fully on track. I think everything's right. I'm gonna get some plastic gauge in the morning, but this is mind-blowing. Like, it's actually making me mad. Come on, iPhone calculator. Okay, so we want 2.0079. 2.0079. All right, that's that number. Got 2 zeros, like that one. You know, like I said, we're not even counting the digit over here. So now 0.25 of a millimeter is 2 zeros followed by 998. Same thing. So we're going to do minus the 0.25 millimeter. So 0.00, that's 2 zeros, and then a 98. 98. Okay, so that should basically drop down 1/10,000ths on that, equal a complete, absolute, non-existent number. I did this like 27 times. I cannot figure that out. So I'm gonna figure it out tomorrow, and I'm gonna make a fool of myself, but I'm never gonna delete these things because I don't know, I make mistakes, we all do. But I think everything's good. Like I said, this extra 0 was absolute fooling me, because I don't know, I just don't do this every day. It's not my cup of tea. But I think everything's gonna work out. I hope. We'll know in the morning. I'll learn y'all plastic gauge, and hopefully this motor will live. Okay, so I think I was wrong as expected. Like I said, this is not what I do for a living. I'm gonna go get him because we're actually going to measure the crankshaft with proper tools, but I think I'm wrong. And I think I just looked. I don't think they make one undersized thousandths bearing, so maybe I put a set in there, put some 10, 15, 40 and roll with it. But let me go get him. We'll see where we're at. From what I'm told, these tools must be more accurate than the tools that I was using. So let me learn something.
These are even more accurate if you want to use them.
Yeah, I need the most accurate because I think this is bad news stuff. Okay, I went and got the guy that does numbers better than me. He's got one of these fancy measuring tools. He's doing measuring. And I can't wait to explain what I was dealing with last night. I think I've got it figured out. Like I said, I ain't never done any of this stuff before. But what I was going to show you is these are obviously brand new rod bearings. He thinks they look too tight. There's like, which I kind of agree, because they're just wore everywhere for no absolute reason. But got some plastic gauge 25, yeah, so that's good. But he's playing with numbers.
I'm gonna set this up 1,000 smaller than what it should be, and see if it'll clear it.
I want to understand.
Look at there.
So that's still in spec?
No, we're out of spec now.
So what does that mean?
It's the journal is smaller than spec.
But is it 0.25 millimeters in spec?
No.
So the crankshaft's probably wrong. How does it just run?
Well, let's just get a measurement here, an actual measurement.
Okay, so he's got a measurement.
You are about 2 thousandths, give or take, smaller than standard. So if you can find
a 1/1000th under. So
now we're like I said, we're just measuring one journal. We don't know
the rest of them.
We don't know the rest of them.
So I may need to take it apart. That's a lot of metal in the oil pan to come from one rod bearing. So we may have one that is worse than the other ones. I don't know. I hate to just go tearing everything apart without the right parts on hand. So definitely a confusing situation to be in. But I've got standard, and I've got new standard, and then I've got new the 0.25 over, which are bigger than those to take up slack. But we're going to plastic gauge the brand new ones and just see.
You're 2.5 thousandths smaller.
That's so weird, because that's what I literally just started this video out telling about the Jeep that had 13 thousandths of clearance and was running just fine. But this is a 4.7.
This is a 4.7. This isn't a 4.0.
That's what I said. I think I said it already in the video. That's brand new, so that's probably made in China. Not to say anything wrong with China, but you know. Put some 1540 in it, roll on. I probably showed y'all this before, but you see the little piece of whatever that is, plastic, and then it comes out to these numbers right here. So I'm gonna put it on there. These are fracture broke, so just go and torque them down and just pull it right back apart and see what it looks like. It just crushes it down to flatness. All right, well, the plastic gauge gave us even some more confusion, but I've got a new theory. If you look right up there, I'll try to zoom in on the computer, but that looks about right. And even this one checks out. Like, I know it's gonna be hard to see, but the white line, let's see, 2,000. So if you go over there in the book, somewhere between, what do we say, 2 and 4 thousandths?
Between 0.5 thousandths and 2 thousandths is desired.
Okay, so that's going back to numbers. But my new theory, when I got this motor, somebody had put all brand new stuff. I done told you that in there. Well, they timed it wrong. So all the pistons were contacting the valves. So I'm sitting there thinking, if they're spinning it with the starter, it's not creating enough oil pressure, probably at all, and it's sitting there bumping on those dry rod bearings. So what I did is, there's no real good way to do this, is I got Justin's Mituo and measured. Like I said, you can see that ain't perfect. And they come out to like 56, 57 thousandths, whatever that is. But I got another new rod bearing, and it measured out to like 58 thousandths. So whether that's 1 or 2 thousandths, if you add it on both sides of the bearings, pretty much closes the gap up. So we'll go ahead and put the new rod bearing in, roll it over to, this is number 1, so that's the driver's side of the motor. I think the head was messed up on the passenger side, so I'm gonna pull, I don't know, like number 6 or something on the passenger side and see where it's at, and I may just be putting rod bearings in it and rolling with it. Okay, so from this point, I think I'm just gonna start popping new rod bearings in. If there's anything crazy, I'll show you. This is number 2, pulled them out. I mean, they're in a way different, so I'm just gonna put new ones in, kind of mic it as I go. And that's one thing I was gonna say, this Jeep the other day, I was driving it, it just randomly would spit and sputter and cut out. I kind of thought this because I knew about the whole rod bearing and all that metal, and I probably can't let you see it now, but if you stare back in there, the crank sensor, it's covered in metal dust. So when I get it out, I will show you what it looks like, but that probably was my problem. So hope this all works out. Maybe so. Okay, so I don't actually understand exactly what this means, but I think I got a clue. If you look, all the bearings are eat up in the middles. Okay, so I got to thinking, why are they all eat up on the middle? Well, let me show you this first. The oil gets injected in the middle from the crankshaft, whatever. So I'm thinking that it's pumping in, either metal or aluminum or something from whatever they was doing before. And before Justin left, he set this indicator, whatever it's called, on the bare minimum. He said if you stick it on there and it shakes around, it's probably never gonna last. But everyone has been really close. In the last couple ones I got to paying attention, if you stick it up there through the middle, it's fine. But if you go past and go to the side, it won't even come back past there. So that means the middle of the crankshaft is kind of worn, but the sides, I mean, they're still on the verge of being acceptable. But like I said, this Jeep just gets drove to town and back. So I think I got them all. I got one more to go, torqued down, got to get everything cleaned up. And I'll probably put a manual gauge back on it. And I've got a short video if I add it right here. This is why I don't trust Chrysler and their gauges. Look at the oil pressure. Says it's good, right? There's a funny thing about that, and I'll show you why. That one shows about 20. And what's even funnier is there's the sensor. I don't know if I have enough light to show you. There's the plug right there. There's no sensor in the thing, and it still shows 40, 50 psi. So don't always believe those. Where I went to town, it was idling real low oil pressure. So see if this will correct that. It's got to make a difference. Because like I said, you can just tell all these bearings are just simply missing material. They're not what I would call bad. They're just all the Babbitt material is missing. So hopefully this will make a difference. All right, I got the crank sensor off. Maybe you can see that metal is starting to, I think where the reluctor wheel is slinging it over, it's catching it right across. Yeah, that would be right. It sits right on the top side. So that's probably my problem right there. Get that cleaned up, stuck back in there. All right, I poked a hole on this side. I don't know if you've seen the other video. I didn't. And its drain back valve was saving a lot of oil for me. So let me get this cut up. Hearing a little crackling. There we go. So this was essentially new when I put the motor together. It's got about 500 miles. I mean, it don't necessarily what I'll be. There's no big chunks of metal. Not too bad. Could be worse. So yeah, more throw this in the scrap pile and keep on going. So I got everything cleaned up, ready to go, and I happened to remember I'd take the starter off to get to the crank sensor, and I just so happened to remember that the starter was draggy when it got hot. And luckily it's 100% performance tested, all that blah blah blah. So pretty much auto's on the starter, and I gotta get one of them. And I did take the oil sensor out, so I'm gonna put a manual gauge on there to make sure we just see if the results match everything. So I gotta find my oil pressure gauge, and I am gonna put the regular 520, 530, whatever 47 calls for. So yeah, gotta get all this cleaned up and bolt it back together and fire it up and see what happens. In the home stretch, here we go. Got everything bolted back together. I had to go borrow my brother's gauge. That don't change the story. I'm gonna tell you about the oil filter in a second. But I was thinking, like, the way this video started, I was trying to compare it to the Cherokee video, and essentially it kind of is. I mean, I know it's not the same situation, but if you think about it, all them bearings, however they've got, I'm thinking somebody shaved the heads and got aluminum dust, and it just sit there and eat those bearings away till it got it all out of the system. Who knows? We'll never know. Oh, that leads me to what I was fixing to show you, and I don't have the video, or I've never even watched the video. My brother talks about this stuff, and of course I'm not sponsored by him. Motor Coat, and there's some video about Project Farm. He puts it in a lawnmower motor, runs it with this stuff, and it like sticks to the metal, and he runs it with no oil. I don't know, I need to go watch the video. But after he told me about that, kind of firm believer in something you actually care about. So I'm gonna pour just a couple ounces in there. I'm not actually pre-filling the filter, but it does sit kind of like on a 45. So let me do that and figure out what kind of oil I'm gonna put in there. Went out to my inventory and found 5W30. I looked it up. That's what they want, unless it's what do they say? If it's over 100 degrees, you can run 1030. So I'm gonna try this and see where the oil pressure goes. And I did find that I've got some Rotella 5W40. I don't know. Never really run into this exact problem before, but yeah, let me get it set up and we'll fire it up. All right, I'm gonna crank it out there. I'm gonna turn the key on up here. I don't have an oil pressure gauge up there anyways, so wouldn't be nothing to see in there unless I crank it up and it goes buck wild. But got it zip tied right there, and as long as the starter the guy sold me, I gotta click it. So we'll let you watch it. And that's what I'm gonna say. it wasn't necessarily an oil pressure problem. It was the fact that it was rattling. So if it rattles on startup, I don't know. Here we go. That's good. 75 total. It didn't really sound what I would call like a rattle. It just sounded noisy, so that's kind of weird. I had to drive it and then restart it when it's cold and see what it sounds like. Get everything buttoned up, we'll go for a ride. Alright, turns out that gauge I screwed in is pouring. So I'm just gonna give it a quick run down the road and see what it looks like. And if I don't have good answers, just follow me and I'll share with you later on. What sucks is from in the cab, I can't tell what the oil pressure is, so it may blow that hose. I'll probably know when that happens. I can see like a smoke trail back there. So I'm afraid to drive it any farther. And that's what y'all literally just watched me leave the oil sensor out. And if you didn't see my short video, that's so funny because there's literally not a sensor in there to be reading. It shows good oil pressure. All right, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if that technically fixed anything. It had to make it better, but you can see it's dropping down to like 35. And motor's not even up to operating temperature. I just run down the road, but it is what it is. I mean, if that don't work out, I'll swap to a 540. So just follow along. I'll always follow up on all my videos, little shorts or something like that. So appreciate y'all watching. This wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but thank you. I was cleaning up my tools and I about forgot to tell y'all. If you remember when I was struggling with the calculator, turns out it was right. I was wrong. So this is the 0.25 millimeters, and that's what my brother taught me. That last number is so minuscule that it don't even matter. So technically the 9 would round up to a 10. So instead of that 8 being there in the 9, that would be a 0 and that would be a 1 carry over to there. So yes, if you took 10 thousandths off of the original crankshaft, it would actually be below 2 inches. So I was just dead wrong. Not a one of these people right here.